Welcome, everybody, to the Redzone Report right here on the Built-in Buffalo YouTube, Facebook, X channels. I'm your host, Izzy, and today I am doing my first ever power rankings. I spent more than 10 hours on this, 15 to 20 minutes per team. I already knew most of the stuff going on with most teams because I love football, but, I don't know everything. So I went and I just did a little research on everybody to see who they gained and who they lost. And these are my power rankings. So, with that being said, let's talk about it. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Izzy, right here on the Redzone Report, Built-in Buffalo, YouTube, Facebook, and X. And today I'm doing my power rankings. And as you guys know, I like to do slides. And so I did all 32 teams. Took a long time to do this, probably a good 6 to 7 hours yesterday and about 4 or 5 today. I put in some work for this one, so I hope you guys like it. I like power rankings. I like going to NFL.com and seeing power rankings, ESPN, CBS Sports, and they're always pretty interesting. And so I figured, what the heck with it? Let me go ahead and do one for me and my fans here on Built-in Buffalo and see how it goes, because power rankings are an interesting way that people measure, football. They measure the teams, and they look at the opponents they play. They look at the divisions that they're in, who's going to be competing for the division championship, and what teams have no hopes. I'll say that the teams I look at that have no hopes on my list are the bottom 6, so 27 to 32. That could totally change. Like, these teams could come out of nowhere. Like the Commanders last year came out of nowhere. They drafted Jaden Daniels, and all of a sudden they're in the NFC championship game against the Eagles. They lost, but they weren't sniffing the playoffs before that. Not for a while. So, before I get started, my man Jacob Spears in the building. Jacob, I got to call you back sometime here soon, but this show's probably going to be a longer one. And 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐿, who's always in my comments, always here, giving the good evenings and the go Bills. Love it having Sandra around. Kim Boomhauer, my man, always, here to talk ball, ask questions. And then Miss Nancy Nelson Sykes. It's my man Lance's mama. Much love to Miss Nancy. She's always supporting Built-in Buffalo. That is a mom who is really invested in her son's activities, So that's awesome. Also, her grandbaby, my man Lance's son, awesome kid, cute kid. But here we go. I'm going to take down this here. Boom, get a little Redzone Report up there in the corner. And the first team, which is the worst team in my NFL power rankings, is, boom, the Cleveland Browns. Now, owner Jimmy Haslam, general manager Andrew Berry, head coach Kevin Stefanski, and the quarterback is unfreaking known. Like, all the scoops on these teams are my opinions based on the facts. There are some facts, obviously, and then my opinion around those facts, which I believe the best way to do so in anything that you're going to be discussing. You should have the facts and then discuss them and how you feel about them. So, scoop is the best part of this team simply falls on defense. Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward are proven commodities. Rookie linebacker Carson Schwarzenegger looks to establish himself on a solid overall front seven. Not knowing who the starting QB will be with Deshaun Watson out and four guys battling for the job isn't ideal at all. Joe Flacco showed some flashes a couple years ago, but he's 40. Kenny Pickett has the worst QB last name in history, Pickett. And so that leaves Shedeur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel as youthful contenders. Dillon Gabriel was drafted in the 4th round this year, and Shedeur was drafted in the 5th round. Now there's a lot of people saying that Shedeur should have been a 1st round pick, should have been 2nd to 10 in this draft. Well, apparently he screwed up in interviews and really didn't put his best foot forward, and there was a drastic fall. I tried combining those words at one time, didn't work out. And it didn't go well. So that's terrible. They have some decent weapons on offense, but they don't have any real studs. Like their starting running back as of right now is Jerome Ford. Jerry Jeudy is their wide receiver 1. It's not really a team that is built to win right now. Like I expect them to be drafting 1 overall next year. So Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur are probably, wasted picks at quarterback. A lot like Spencer Rattler in New Orleans. They went and drafted Tyler Shuck. He's probably the favorite to win that job in New Orleans. If you look here, 2 guys, 4th and 5th overall, or look at Cam Ward, drafted number 1 overall at Tennessee. Will Levis was a 2nd round pick a couple years ago. It hasn't been pretty with Will Levis, but what has he been playing with? Not a lot. Not a lot. Since Derrick Henry left, it's been slim pickings for Will Levis and the Titans. But the Browns, they drafted Quinshon Judkins. He's already in trouble. They drafted Dylan Sampson. Maybe he can do something for him. I like Dylan Sampson coming out of Tennessee. Cedric Tillman, Deontay Johnson. It's rough there, dude. Like the tight end, David Njoku. The Browns are just a dumpster fire at this point, and they've been running that thing into the ground for a while, ever since they traded for Deshaun Watson. They did the wrong thing, and this is karma getting you back, right? The Browns are just horrible. And I'm not really ashamed to say it. I think we all know it. And my breakdowns of these teams is going to be a little longer than what you would see in NFL.com. They give you a little paragraph, a little snippet, and there you go. My man Christopher L. Roseborough in the comments. Yo, Izzy, what up, man? How you doing? Welcome back. Welcome back. Now, the second team on my list, the New Orleans Saints. Now, these guys have been just kicking the salary cap can down the road. As my In the Scoop says, their owner is Gail Benson, general manager Mickey Loomis, head coach is Kellen Moore, brand new head coach, very young, came from the Dallas Cowboys, I believe, as the offensive coordinator. Or no, he was with the Eagles this year. He definitely was the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys under the head coach that claps a lot. Not Sean McDermott, obviously. Jason Garrett. And so Kellen Moore back in, the South, in New Orleans, and this is what he's going to have to deal with. The Saints have been in salary cap hell for a while now and continue to kick the proverbial can down the road. Unlike Cleveland, the Saints are a bit more clear with who their quarterback may be. Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck will battle for the job. But at least they got weapons. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Brandon Cooks, and Alvin Kamara will make life easier for a young QB. They've also been infusing youth on defense. We'll see how they do. But with players like Kool-Aid McKinstry and Pete Werner, who could take a step with veteran leaders like Cam Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, Demario Davis, maybe they can climb these rankings, right? So maybe they can do a little better than I expect. But as of right now, they're 31. And I do not expect them to make the playoffs. I do not expect them to look good most of the year. I expect them to struggle. Now, another reason they can climb these rankings, they're in the NFC South, right? Division really could go anywhere. Most likely it's going to be Tampa. They've won the division 2 years in a row. They won a Super Bowl with Brady before Baker got there. Baker got there, and those are some big shoes to fill with Brady leaving, and Baker's filled them. Baker's doing pretty good. Baker looks good in Tampa. He's got weapons. So, the guy who wins this quarterback job, whether it's Rattler or it's Tyler Shuck. They're going to have to make quick decisions and really be smart with the ball, right? You have a good running back. You've got good receivers, solid tight end. Make the best of it, and maybe, they don't end up in position to draft your replacement next year, because that's really what it's looking like. Looking like next year, the Saints, if they are the worst team in football, they'll be drafting first overall, and they'll be going to get their guy. And that guy, Arch Manning, is most likely the guy, unless he decides to stay for his senior year. He's been in Texas for 2 years now. This will be his third year, his first year starting. And that's where they're at. Tight end, Juwan Johnson, solid tight end. Taysom Hill behind him. They've got solid weapons on offense. The question is, can Kellen Moore make this offense watchable? Because it hasn't been. It's been pretty unwatchable the last few years. Now, team number 3. Tennessee Titans. This is a rough one, right? They drafted first overall this year. They went up and they got Cam Ward from the University of Miami. And it's been a rough few years for the Tennessee Titans, man. They just aren't good. And they're owned by the Adams family, which is hilarious, by the way. But Mike Borgonzi and Brian Callahan, who will be his second year there, he inherited this dumpster fire. And I believe Mike Borgonzi's new there too, so they're building this up. Cameron Ward was their first overall pick. Good pick for you guys. Good pick, I believe. This year's quarterback class was not the best, but, he went and got the guy. I watched him play, for the University of Miami. I'm a Syracuse fan, so I definitely paid attention. My boys at Syracuse beat him in the end, so I'm happy with that. But Tony Pollard at running back is rough. Right? Tyjae Spears played way better when Tony Pollard got hurt last year. Tyjae Spears probably should start. But then after that, Julius Chestnut and Khalil Mullins, don't know who those guys are. I don't know who those guys are. Wide receivers, Calvin Ridley and Tyler Lockett, they're getting old. Treylon Burks is basically a bust from when he came out. Van Jefferson, solid, wide receiver 4. And then look at the rest of these guys. Chimere Dike, Elik Ayomanore. That's a good pickup. But he's going to have to see the field. He's going to earn his time on the field. And you got 2 veterans out there who could really help school up this quarterback in Tyler Lockett and Calvin Ridley. They've played with good quarterbacks before. Geno Smith and Russell Wilson for Tyler Lockett. Calvin Ridley's played with, Matt Ryan in Atlanta. And he played, before he played for the Titans, he played somewhere else. He had a really good season. I think it was the Jags. And now he's here, and he's, 31 years old? So he's on the wrong side of 30. And he's 30. He'll be 31 in December. So before the season's over, he'll be 31. And so his clock is winding down. He missed a couple of years. Football, it is what it is. Or he missed a year because of a suspension. It's not looking good for him. But the scoop on him is rookie quarterback Cam Ward has a lot to prove and not a ton of health. Feels a lot like the Caleb Williams situation, or not a lot of help. I meant to type there, but I put health. Caleb Williams' situation in Chicago last season. A young rookie QB with some successful wide receivers who are basically at the twilight of their careers in Tyler Lockett and Calvin Ridley. They may be good for him this year, but with Tony Pollard as the lead back, he will have some trouble. Not to mention a defense that lacks star power other than Jeffrey Simmons at defensive tackle and L'Jarius Sneed, who didn't look like the man who dominated in Kansas City. Cam Ward had better strap that chin strap tight because that offensive line has been a liability. Let's see how Brian Callahan schemes things up. What up, Lance? I see you. How you doing? I said hello to your mom earlier. She always in the comments. Always wonderful to see her. John Robert. Yes, it was the Jags. Calvin Ridley played for the Jags. And now he's here in Tennessee. And when he was with Jacksonville, they looked like they were moving up. They looked like they were going in the right direction. And then he left. And they picked up Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk, and that ship sailed terribly. The Titans I don't see really doing very well. That's why they're number 30, right? This is pre-training camp power rankings. That's why they're so long. Each ranking is as long as it is, but it is what it is. So moving on to the next team, number 29, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Owner, 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞, general manager James Gladstone, and head coach Liam Cohen. I believe this is Liam Cohen's first year with them. I believe they fired after this year. I could be wrong. He could have been here last year, but the scoop on the Jaguars. Well, with that offensive line flat out sucks, but at least they gave Trevor Lawrence weapons. Hopefully, for the team's sake, Travis Etienne can stay healthy and balance out the offense because Brian Thomas Jr. is crazy good, and he is. We got to see Brian Thomas Jr. last year, and a lot of Bills fans wanted the Bills to move up to go get Brian Thomas Jr. The Bills did not, and we probably didn't have the firepower to do so. Doug Peterson, thank you, Christopher. Doug Peterson was the guy. I'm sorry, I forget coaches that suck, even though he did win a Super Bowl with Philadelphia and Nick Foles, which was crazy, but it's been a long way downhill from there. Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. was awesome last year, like crazy. Exactly how good Bills fans thought he was going to be and really wanted him. He was that good in Jacksonville on a lousy offense. Now, plus the additions of Travis Hunter is giving Trevor Lawrence, some true firepower, but the line still sucks. So get the ball out quick, Trevor. Get the ball out quick, boy, because they're coming for you. They're coming for you, and they want blood. Now, defensive now the defense has some talent, and they do. Their defense has got some real good talent. Defensive end, Josh Allen Hines, defensive tackle Eric Armstead, defensive end Trevin Walker out of Georgia. For yesterday, Oluokun, Devin Lloyd, Darnell Savage, Tyson Campbell. Like, they have some players on defense. There's some real physical talent on defense. But the problem is if your offense is not able to keep themselves on the field, your defense is going to struggle, right? They're not going to have the ability to be rested. They're going to have to rotate a lot more than they would really want to, which means that your lower tier players are going to be exposed to better offensive weapons on the other team. So unless they're playing a lot of teams that suck, which is possible, they are in the AFC South. So it's them, the Titans, and the Colts. And then you have clearly Houston, who's the front runner of that division. The Jags could win more games than I would think, but while those teams suck, so do they. So here you are, Jacksonville. Salute, because your fans, they're not going to be happy, but I think they know. And Trevor Lawrence, man, I feel bad for him because with no offensive line, he just gets hammered a lot. Like a whole lot. Now, moving on to number 28. The Indianapolis Colts. Look at that. Back to back to back. Colts, Tennessee, and Jaguars. They're owned by 𝐼𝐸 now. Jim Irsay passed away earlier this year. Rest in peace, Jim. He was a character. If you know, you know. GM Chris Ballard and head coach Shane Steichen, they really, really did put all their eggs in the Anthony Richardson basket, and now they're looking for another basket, and apparently that's Daniel Jones, and that's sad. It's real sad because Daniel Jones, he looked okay when he had Saquon. I'll give him his credit. When he had Saquon, he looked okay. And they do have Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis. But Jonathan Taylor is not Saquon. He's good, but he's at least one tier below Saquon in the greatness conversation. When it comes to how great your talent is, he is a bit behind Saquon, but he is damn good. Now, here's the scoop. And a lot of thought went into this. So, QBs Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones seem to be locked into a QB battle this preseason. Accuracy issues have plagued Richardson, and he has sought help from biomechanics expert Chris Hess, who famously assisted Josh Allen in drastically improving his throwing motion. However, mechanics is far from his only issue. his obsession with throwing low percentage passes, which are basically deep balls. He just likes to throw the ball way down the field. And that has been a detriment to his game, right? He's just not been that guy. Throwing the ball deep is a low percentage pass. That's why, Josh Allen, early in his career, tried a lot of it. It didn't really work. It was not, what he thought it was going to be. And so because of that, he went and sought help. And now Anthony Richardson is too. But Josh Allen threw short early on in his career. He did throw deep more than he does now, but he definitely threw the ball short. He wasn't scared to throw the ball, on a short route to Zay Jones or Kelvin Benjamin or to Shady McCoy out the backfield. He was willing to do that stuff. It appears to be that Anthony Richardson is not willing to take those high percentage throws. It's a big deal. Now, his obsession with throwing these low percentage passes must also change, and Daniel Jones will take that job. The situation seems to be a waste of the talents of running back Jonathan Taylor, wide receiver Michael Pittman, and offensive guard Quentin Nelson. Those guys are really, really outstanding players. Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor are not necessarily tops at their position, but they're number one. He's number one receiver, and he's a good bell cow back. Quentin Nelson's probably the best guard in football. Easily the best guard in football, in my opinion. And he's sitting there wasting away on a team that doesn't have a quarterback that can play responsibly. That's a problem. Now, the Colts' defense is what really keeps them safe, right? Defensive end Laiatu Latu, defensive tackle DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, and rookie defensive end JT. He's not a rookie, is he? Yeah, I think he's. Is he? I might have got this guy mixed up with somebody else. Let's see. JT. Yeah, he is a rookie. Second round pick, 45th overall from Ohio State. I wanted him for the Bills too at one point, but we got Landon Jackson in the next round, and we got TJ Sanders, so I was happy, even though we didn't get him. Yeah, so rookie defensive end. I did do my research. See, man. Could potentially be dominant, and that's not even mentioning defensive ends Kwity Paye and Samson Ebukam. Those guys as rotational defensive ends, that is crazy. That is a lot of depth at edge rusher. You're telling me starting Laiatu Latu and then JT Tui Malau, and then you have Kwity Paye and Samson Ebukam. I mean, even if JT doesn't start and it's Kwity Paye on ESPN, their depth chart, Kwity Paye is a starter, but I'm assuming that he may not start. However, he did have 8 sacks last year, and then Samson, he was a dog earlier. Now he's kind of more in that Leonard Floyd role where he's a situational pass rusher. That depth at defensive end is outstanding. It's outstanding. And as I say here, this rotation is going to be crazy. The linebackers, Jalen Carleys, Zaire Franklin, and Segun Olubi, along with the secondary, will benefit from a strong front four. And that's true. These guys may be able to get to quarterbacks just rushing the front four, which means that their defense will be able to go out and worry about getting picks and forcing fumbles and stuff like that, defending passes. But if your offense can't get off the field, well, it is what it is. Colts are, I don't know if they're a quarterback away, but if they are, they don't have that quarterback. And that's rough. Unless Daniel Jones can turn this thing around, which he might be able to, but I don't necessarily see it coming. I don't see it coming. Number 27, and this is the last one of my dumpster fire teams. Okay? The New York Giants. I don't know what happened, right? John Mara and Steve Tisch own this thing, and then coming from Buffalo, headed to New York City, or New Jersey, Joe Schoen and Brian Dable. Joe Schoen, Brian Dable, yeah. When they first got to New York, they took them Giants to the playoffs. They overachieved, and they took them to the playoffs. They had freaking Danny Dimes and Saquon, and that defense was playing really well. And then after that, the wheels fell off, and they have sucked since. Here's the scoop. Brian Dable and Joe Schoen fighting for their jobs as those seats get real toasty after 4 years on the job and only one playoff appearance being in year one. After fumbling the Saquon Barkley contract last season, the Giants are reeling. Jackson Dart and Abdul Carter are hoping to win starting jobs as the Giants' 2 first-round picks this year, right? They had 2 first-round picks. They took Abdul Carter real early, top 5, and then they went and they took Jackson Dart later on. They have Russell Wilson, and they have 38 for 30 interceptions, Jameis Winston. They have Jameis Winston on this team as well. And I don't know if he's promising at all, but, he's still in the NFL, so good for him. But Jackson Dart's going to need some work. He's going to need some work. Now, they were 2 first-round picks at 2 important positions, edge rusher and quarterback. The Giants will likely look to pound the rock with Tyrone Tracy Jr. and 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭, who they drafted out of Arizona State. 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭's a dog. He's a beast, right? And they already had Tyrone Tracy, who had a really good year last year. And now you bring in 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 as your power back. You need 1 or 2 yards. Man, you put 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 in there. He's not fast. They're on like a 4.6 or 4.7. He is a powerful. Make sure I'm right about that. Make sure I'm right about that, because I believe that's what tanked his draft stock. ℉40 time. 4.65. I was close enough. It was between a 4.6 and a 4.7, in the middle exactly. And that did tank his draft stock. But it wasn't like a Audric Estime type thing. Like Audric Estime ran like a damn near a 4.8. It's pretty rough. Anyway, they brought in 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭. If you need 3 or 4 yards, he's your man. He might even be able to break one and be a freak of nature, because he's a big dude. 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 is a big back. He is short and compact. He's not short really like that. He's 5'11", but he's 215. Like he's a stout boy. And so if you're interested in watching some stout boy football, 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭's for you. Now, with their lack of weapons, Malik Neighbors being the best weapon, he could see the Stephon Diggs load from Daboll's coaching past as a featured wide receiver, right? Like when Daboll was here with Josh Allen, once they got Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen's numbers took off, and Diggs' numbers took off. But there was not really any other receivers on the team that were super great, right? We had Cole Beasley. He had a solid year, that year as the slot guy. They really don't have that. Their slot receiver is Darius Slayton, who isn't bad. Is he Cole Beasley good? No. So they have Malik Neighbors, and they have a tight end named Theo Johnson, who I don't know who that is. And that's about it. Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt's on the team, Zach Pascal, but none of those names do anything for me. Man, Steve Holler, Cam is a beast. Cam is a freaking beast. He's a dog. And where's Lil Wayne? He's a motherfucking problem. Yeah. Cam's a big boy. Now, if Malik Neighbors gets that Stephon Diggs treatment, 150 targets on the year, and you pound the rock with 𝐃𝐨𝐧'𝐭 and Tyrone Tracy, they may, be able to make a little noise in their division, but they're clearly the worst team in that division. By a mile, they're the worst team in that division. That's why they're here at 27. Now, the defense is solid with Abdul Carter, Sexy Dexy Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, and Bobby Okereke. They have a solid front seven. Solid front seven. Their offensive line, they got John Runyon. He's solid. Greg Van Roten, solid. John Michael Schmitz, okay. Andrew Thomas, all right. Jermaine Lou-Minor, not really too big on that offensive line. Go to the defensive side of the ball, Dexter Lawrence, Roy Robertson Harris, Brian Burns, Bobby Okereke, Abdul Carter, Paulson Adebo, Tyler Nubin, Javon Holland, coming from Miami. We all know how good he is if he can stay healthy. Deontay Banks, Drew Phillips. They got some talent on defense, but that offense is god-awful. It's god-awful. Now, next team on the list, number 26, is having kind of a fall from grace. They're kind of doing a big rebuild off the top, and I think that they'll probably be fishing for a quarterback sooner rather than later. But it is the Seattle Seahawks. They're owned by the Paul Allen estate. I'm guessing Paul Allen has passed away, and his estate now runs the team. The general manager, John Schneider, and head coach, Mike McDonald. Not the singer. Not the singer. This Seattle team is mysterious for sure. They sent Geno Smith to Pete Carroll in Las Vegas and brought in another quarterback, formerly of the Jets, in Sam Darnold, to take over after one excellent year in Minnesota, who let him walk, right? So he was excellent last year in Minnesota, and the Vikings let him walk, right? There's a reason for that. The Vikings can turn any quarterback basically into a winning quarterback who takes you to the playoffs. Question is, if you're that good, can you turn it on in the playoffs and start winning? The last guy to do that was before Mike McDonald got there. Or not McDonald, O'Connell, the coach of the Vikings, got there. And that was freaking with Stephon Diggs, and I'm forgetting his name. I just had it in my brain. Damn it. He was on the Bills. Whatever. He's the last guy to do it, and now we're here, right? They got rid of, DK Metcalf. They got rid of freaking Geno Smith. They got rid of so many guys. And now you bring in Sam Darnold, and he was great in Minnesota last year, but he had some help, right? The task in Minnesota was much easier, much more manageable. With Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison at wide receiver, Jackson Smith-Njigba is no slouch, but he's no JJ. Right? He's the number one receiver right now. DK Metcalf is gone. So number one now is freaking Jackson Smith and Jigma, JSN. He's not in the same tier as Justin Jefferson. He's just not. So they bring in Cooper Kupp, who can't stay healthy. He hasn't been able to do it since he was the Triple Crown winner. And I wrote that here. Cooper Kupp could help if he stays healthy, but how realistic is that? He's been injured ever since he won the NFL Triple Crown. MVS is their slot guy. He looked solid last year after being released by Buffalo, but as wide receiver 3, I think he's in over his head. He's not a wide receiver 3 in my book. He's like wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. Guy you bring in there, have some speed, take the top off of defense. He did look good in New Orleans last year. Right as soon as Buffalo cut him, he went to New Orleans and he started lighting it up, and then I guess it fizzled out from there, but MVS is just kind of a one-trick pony. See, there's a good reason the Seahawks drafted Jalen Milroe as a backup quarterback to Sam Darnold, right? Because their line, not great, but I think they're more worried about having somebody who they can develop behind them, because they're not going to be bad enough to get a top pick for a quarterback, but they're also not going to be good enough, unless one of these quarterbacks takes off. So you bring in Jalen Milroe to develop behind him, and you see how that goes, right? Their offensive line, Charles Cross, 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐿, Olu Olumatimi, Anthony Bradford, Abraham Lucas. I've heard of 3 of those guys. I've heard of Charles Cross, 𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐿, and Oluwatimi, right? And Cross sucked in Carolina, so do with that what you will. Right? Noah Fant is pretty good. Well, he just got cut. After I did all this research, the Seahawks cut him. So he's no longer on the team. So having a pretty good tight end, that's out the window. And the line is solid. Those 3 guys I named, 3 out of your 5 offensive linemen are pretty good. Yeah, fine. Cross sucked in Carolina. Maybe here he can do better. But we'll see. I still have my concerns. Will running back Kenneth Walker start, or did Zach Charbonnet do enough to keep the job? Because last year Kenneth Walker got hurt. Zach Charbonnet went in there. He played pretty good. I like Zach Charbonnet coming out of college. Dude is big, 6'1", 215. Last year he had 569 yards, 8 touchdowns. Like, he was a touchdown machine. He was a red zone dude. So Zach Charbonnet is a guy who maybe didn't have to keep that job, but 500 something yards, I'm not sure. Their D-line is good. Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, and DeMarcus Lawrence. Like, that is a stout-ass defensive line. Like, if you're a DB on that team, like Rick Woolen, you're a happy man because that D-line is nasty. And DeMarcus Lawrence isn't even a D-line. He's a linebacker. But you know what he does. When he was in Dallas, he rushes the passer. And he's an ass kicker. So I'm sure they're glad they got him. But I don't see their offense being able to stay out on the field long enough to really allow this defense to be restful and effective. Like the previous teams, their offense is so bad that their defense is going to have to get tired. They're going to go out there and be exhausted. And that's not what you want to be as a defense. You want to be fresh. You want your offense to take their time sometimes, get down the field, and eat some of the clock so you can sit on the sideline and rest. And then when it's time for you to go to work, you're ready. You're not tired. Well, that's not going to happen here. Best of luck, Seahawks. I don't hate the Seahawks, but I hate what they've done with themselves. Now, next team, and then I go for a potty break. The number 25, Las Vegas Raiders, owned by Mark Davis. General manager, John Spytek. It's a cool name, dude. Spytek is a cool name. And then Pete Carroll is their head coach. Pete Carroll and John Spytek have quickly assembled a team that could climb these rankings quickly, right? I told you guys, 26 to 32, I think have no chance of anything. I could be wrong, but those are the ones I feel strongest about as the worst teams in football. Those are the guys competing for the Arch Manning. Those six teams, 27 to 32. Right here, I don't see it. These guys are a good team now, I believe, but they're in the hardest division of football, and we'll go over that here. Pete Carroll and John Spytek have quickly assembled a team that could climb these rankings quickly, but they play in what it will likely be one of the toughest divisions in football, the AFC West. The Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos all having superstar head coaches and seemingly set starting QBs for years to come. The Raiders aren't laying down or bowing out. Drafting 𝐼𝐸𝐿 was an excellent move after trading for the resurgent Geno Smith. Add to that equation Brock Bowers and Mike Mayer at tight end and Jakobi Meyers at wide receiver. They can be formidable. Also, the sneaky good signing of Jermaine Pratt. Right? The Bengals let him go. They can't afford to keep these really good guys like Jermaine Pratt and their other defensive end who Bills fans really want. Trey Hendrickson. And now they have a rookie holding out because he doesn't like the language in his contract, which we'll go over when we get to the Bengals, who I think I have a little too high, but I just couldn't see where else to put him. But he's here, replacing Robert Spillane at linebacker. I think it was brilliant. Right, that's an upgrade to me. Drafting Darian Porter to pair with Eric Stokes and with Jerry Chin at safety, good moves. I think that the Raiders are doing exactly what they need to progress. It's going to be a little bit of slow progression, right? But I think that they could make some noise this year, end up around 500, whether it's one game below or one game above, or if they have a draw and then they're 8-1 or something like that. I think they're going to float around there. They're going to be a better team than they were last year. They've made some good moves. Their roster is getting better. They don't look like a complete joke anymore. They don't look great, but Geno Smith's better than any quarterback they've had recently. Geno Smith's been to the playoffs recently, right? You go and you get the biggest beast in the draft in 𝐼𝐸𝐿, and you have nasty tight ends. They drafted one in the second round, Michael Mayer, and then the very next year, last year, Brock Bowers gets taken in the first round. They have true double tight end potential. And with double tight end potential, you also have the potential to block with more guys to keep your quarterback upright. And then you look at their offensive line. Colton Miller, Dylan Parham, Jackson Powers Johnson, Alex Kappa, DJ Glaze, I don't know who that is, but sounds terrible. But, you know, DJ Glaze, wooka. Yeah. Then you look at their defense. Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, Malcolm Kuntz, Jermaine Pratt, Landon Roberts, Tommy Eichenberg, Darian Porter, who they just drafted, who I did mention in my scoop there. I wanted Darian Porter. We got Maxwell Harrison. I'll take it, right? Jeremy Chin at safety. Eric Stokes. Yeah, they're pretty solid. Now this is my rest from break. I'll be right back, guys. And your man's back. Had to do that. That was necessary. Anyways, guys, Raiders, I believe, are a team that potentially could ascend and really do some good things in the next year or two. But that division is crazy. And if you look at the head coaches, Andy Reid, Jim Harbaugh, Pete Carroll now, right? And then for the Broncos, Sean Payton. Like, that division has a list of coaches that have all been to the Super Bowl, 3 of which have won Super Bowls, including Pete Carroll. Because Jim Harbaugh has not won a Super Bowl. He went to one. Didn't go well. But this team here, they have potential. Next team, the Carolina Panthers. They are also doing some things that I like. Right? Dave Canales as head coach, I like the move. Dan Morgan as GM. He has spiritual ties to Carolina. He was in the Super Bowl on the Panthers when they played the Patriots in 2004, I think, something like that. It was way back. And he also has ties to Buffalo because he was here as the assistant GM with Brandon Beam before the Panthers snagged him away. Owner David Tepper. Panthers fans don't like the owner. They think they need an owner. But neither here nor there. Dave Canales' first year didn't start great. With the benching of Bryce Young in favor of Andy Dalton. Young, though, came back with a vengeance after Dalton suffered an injury and never relinquished the job after. He looked like the first overall pick he was drafted to be. When I say that, sometimes a first overall pick, needs time to flourish and develop just like anybody else. Also, he's a first overall pick for a reason. You were drafted to the worst team in the NFL. Now, he's got a coach that really can coach quarterbacks. So now he's here in Carolina, and he looked good moving forward last year. So I like what I'm seeing from Carolina. Now, he looked like the first overall pick he was drafted to be. This season, the Panthers are hoping to see further growth from their third-year quarterback and have invested around him in the last 2 drafts. Last year, first round, they drafted 𝐬𝐫𝐫𝐫, and this year, Tatoria McMillan, first-round picks. Both drafted round 1 of the last 2 drafts, along with veteran wide receiver Adam Thielen, should help with his development and the development of those 2 young receivers. See, the Panthers' defense is fairly young, but solid with good depth. Right? They have solid depth on that defense. They did get rid of Brian Burns, but they've acquired some talent. The Panthers' defense is fairly young with solid with good depth. The NFC South is a division that could be for the taking, but will likely only yield 1 playoff team, right? And if you think about it, the playoffs, the way they work, you have 4 division champions and you have 3 wild card slots. It is possible for an entire division to go to the playoffs. It's possible. It's unlikely, but it's possible. I don't think more than 1 team makes out the NFC South. I think the Panthers missed the playoffs, but I think they could win 9. They could win 9. I think their floor is going to be 6. I think their ceiling will be 9, which is an improvement, right? Because last year it took them time to build, but they're still building on what looked like a more positive direction than they had been going, because they had been going south for a long, long time. If you look at the roster, Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard should have a good season this year. Ted McMillan, Adam Thielen, 𝐬𝐫𝐫𝐫, right? Tight end, Tommy Tremble, solid there. They also have Jatavion Sanders behind him. Left tackle, 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿𝐫, I like it. Left guard, Damian Lewis. Center, Austin Corbett. Guard, Robert Hunt. And then right tackle, Tyler Moton, who's one of the better run-blocking tackles in the NFL. Very, very good starting point for them. They'll have some shuffling and moving around to do, but I like what I'm seeing. Then you go defensive side, Derek Brown, Bobby Brown, and Tershawn Wharton, right? A'Shawn Robinson is a backup on that defensive line. Behind that, not a lot. But you go to linebacker, DJ Wonnum, Christian Roseboom, know about him. Josie Jewell, Nick Scourton. Looking at the corners, Michael Jackson and J.C. Horn. J.C. Horn's been excellent since he's been in the NFL. Chow Smith-Wade, Nick Scott, and Trevon Moehrig. They have some pieces to build upon, right? They're 24 for a reason because they're not likely making the playoffs, but they're 24 for a reason, and it's because I believe that they're ahead in their build than the teams behind them. Now, moving on to the next team, number 23, Miami Dolphins. I know I'm a Bills fan, and I did my best to be as fair and impartial with every single team I did here. And I believe I was fair here. And you can show this to Dolphins fans, and they can take it as hate if they want to, or they can agree with me. I've seen TD Finns talk. I've seen him talk about it, and I think he agrees. So here we go. The Dolphins have been a team on the ropes this offseason, losing a lot of their talent like Jalen Ramsey, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, Jonnu Smith, Kendall Fuller, Durham Smythe, and Javon Holland, just to name a few. At the end of the season, Tyreek Hill seemed like he wanted to be out there too. I don't fully know why I didn't rank them lower than I have them here. And I still don't know why I didn't rank them lower. I think it's because I just didn't want to appear to be a freaking hater, because I do hate the Dolphins. But that's got nothing to do with this right here, because everything I'm saying is accurate. Right? The first opinion thing I said is I don't fully know why I didn't rank them lower. Everything else I said was true. Objectively. But they have an abundance of talent at positions like edge rusher, wide receiver, and linebacker. And a terrible offensive line, cornerback, and tight end room. Right? Those positions are god-awful at. Offensive line, corner, and tight end, they're terrible. They got rid of their best tight end, Jonnu Smith. They lost Durham Smythe as well. In the secondary, they lost Javon Holland, and they lost freaking Kendall Fuller, and they lost Jalen Ramsey. Ooh, they got Minkah Fitzpatrick. Ooh. He didn't get burned by Gabe Davis for 99 yards or whatever it was. Come on now, this is some nonsense here. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, right? I'm glad they're doing it because it makes them suck. It means that we're going to just pound them out easily like we did last year. We beat them easily last year. But this is ridiculous. See, it truly feels that Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer are fighting an unwinnable fight to keep their jobs in Miami, and resting it on the shoulders of Tua Tagovailoa and company is likely going to result in a swift departure before the season ends. I'm really confused as to how they think this is going to go. They've had enough, or they've been good enough to not be good enough. They just suck. Right? And this is not me saying Dolphins suck because I'm a Bills fan. This is me saying Dolphins suck because Dolphins fucking suck. Pardon my French. I usually don't curse, but that one slipped. That's wild to me. Like, what are they doing? I don't even care, but for their fans, it's like, what are you doing? Like, my fans are just dejected now. I don't even see them talking anymore. Like, yeah, it's over. They're going to have to blow this thing up here soon. And I know what that's like as a Bills fan. We did it for 17 freaking years. But the Dolphins are all right. Anyway, here we go. We'll move on from the Dolphins because that dumpster fire is, it needs to be put out. Number 22, the Arizona Cardinals. Owner Michael Bidwell, general manager Monty Ossenfort, and head coach Jonathan Gannon. Now, the Cardinals are in a weird place because I think that they could be really good, but they got to prove it. They got to prove it. Kyler Murray's one more year removed from the injury. Let's see how this goes. And I'll give you what my scoop was, my opinion as I wrote it, as I did all my research and looked at the roster and did all that stuff. Here we go. So the Cardinals are somewhat of a mystery. They could be higher or lower on this list. They've made significant additions to the roster, like Calais Campbell and Josh Sweat, Kyler Murray is one more year removed from his injury, and Marvin Harrison Jr. can build on his rookie year and chemistry with his quarterback. Trey McBride signed an extension as one of the best young tight ends in the NFL, and they retained slot wide receiver Greg Dortch, along with adding wide receiver Zay Jones. Drafting defensive tackle Walter Nolan from Ole Miss was another strong move to bolster a defensive line that really needed help and depth. Head coach Jonathan Gannon has his work cut out for him, but luckily for him, he doesn't have a roster devoid of talent. General Manager Monty Ossenfort has done a solid job of stocking the cupboards with quality players. I see you. Cards are going to be good this year. I think they could be. I really think they could be. This is one of my sleeper teams. This is like a dark horse right here, the Cardinals, right? They're in the NFC West, right? They got the Niners, they got the Rams, they got the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are going to be trash, right? The Rams are absolutely the class of the division right now, and the Niners are in a weird place, right? I have them probably ranked a little higher than I should, but with that coaching and their ability to really just make things happen, the Niners are a team I think that could bounce back. But the Cardinals, as you say, they've been building through the draft since 2023, and that talent is starting to pop. And it is. It is. We saw a lot of it. Look, they took us in week 1 this past year. They almost took us out. They almost got us. Josh Allen had to do Josh Allen things to win that game. Now, it's very interesting the way they've been building, and then some of the talent they've been acquiring, sneakily or not. But the Cards are a team that is very, very interesting to me. I don't know if I really want to watch them like that because I'm a Bills fan, and I don't know if I can prioritize watching another team. But you look at their team, Kyler Murray, his first few years played well, 3,800 yards average per year, was putting up 30 touchdowns per year, I think minimum. Bring back James Conner, big, strong boy. That man can run. Underrated running back, in my opinion. Marvin Harrison Jr. going into year 2 with Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch. Zay Jones is on the team as well, so, he's that third receiver. Also, they have _Quez Watkins, so they have speed at receiver as well. Those guys have to win out to get there. But then Trey McBride at tight end, awesome. Look at the offensive line. Paris Johnson Jr., Evan Brown, Kelty Froholt, Isaiah Adams, Jonah Williams. They have been improving that offensive line for the past couple of years. I think that they're going to go ahead and really just take off on offense. I think that offense is going to take off, run by James Conner. Kyler Murray is going to be doing more Josh Allen type things where he's more economical with the ball. Hopefully he runs less because I hate seeing guys get hurt. And he's not big. He's 5'10", like 190, 200 pounds. He's not a big quarterback, but you don't have to be. Especially if you have good talent around you. You can depend on them and distribute the ball like you're supposed to. Dropping down to the defense, Josh Sweat, Walter Nolan, Dalvin Tomlinson, Justin Jones. My gosh, that defensive line is crazy. Look at their linebacker room. Mack Wilson Sr., Akeem Davis-Gaither, Baron Browning. I'd say it's a decent linebacking core. Right? That's a crazy Yoda. You said Yoda Froholt. Okay. I don't know how to pronounce that. I tried. But, yeah, if it's Yoda, holy shoot. Their secondary, Will Johnson, solid player. Starling Thomas V, don't know much about him. Garrett Williams, solid. Buda Baker, dude's been in the league for a while, a little older, but he's definitely still got it. Jalen Thompson. They've got a bunch of talent that's young, and they've got some older guys to back it up. I really do like what the Cardinals are doing. The thing is, if it doesn't work out, then excuse me, guys, my dogs are going out. I like that they brought in some older guys like 𝐾𝐨𝐽 Campbell. They brought him back, and now those guys are there to teach the next young group of Cardinals. And these guys could be dangerous. They could be dangerous. They're not in my division, so I don't care, but Just saying. The Redbirds are all right. Next team, number 21, the New York Jets. Owner, Woody and Christopher Johnson. GM, Darren Moogie. Head coach, Aaron Glenn. I also hate the Jets, right? But I'm, again, trying to be fair as possible with all the teams that are on this list. I hate them. I do. I absolutely do. Jets sucks. But let's go ahead and hit the scoop. The Jets are starting. The Jets start a new era under head coach Aaron Glenn and general manager Darren Moogie. Aaron Glenn coming from a very successful tenure as the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. As a former 3-time Pro Bowl cornerback for the Jets, he has a special place in his heart for the Jets, right? So he's coming back to the Jets a lot like Vrabel did, and a lot like, I guess when Doug Marrone came to Buffalo, he's a New York guy, New York team. But when guys go to a place where they played, or when they go to a place like Vrabel, not this year in New England, like there's a place in your heart for that team, right? It's because you played there, and you bonded with the people, and you bonded with the city, and you bonded with, your teammates and coaches. Now, and also the owner. So now you have Aaron Glenn returning to a team that he played for, and he played well for. The Jets have seen quite the overhaul on their roster as well, moving on from QB Aaron Rodgers and adding QB Justin Fields. The offense will clearly be very different from last year, from the last few seasons, with one of the more talented defenses in the NFL, adding defensive tackle Derek Nnadi from Kansas City, who goes from playing next to Chris Jones to Quinnen Williams, which is very comparable. Those are two of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, Chris Jones and Quinnen Williams. He should slot right in and play very well as a DT2, big boy defensive tackle. Through free agency and the draft, the Jets have added much-needed depth and reunited Justin Fields with college teammate Garrett Wilson. I don't know how much that matters because this is the pros, but it's a thing, right? People think it matters. So if you think it matters, I guess. The Jets could compete for a playoff spot this year, and they could. They could. If they get stuff right, if Aaron Glenn is the right choice for head coach, they have the talent to do it. They have the players who are talented enough to do that. The Jets could make the playoffs this year. Will they go deep? Probably not. There's too many juggernauts in the AFC to go deep into the playoffs as a team that's not a juggernaut themselves. Between the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs, that's the AFC East, West, and the Texans. It is what it is. Who do the Jets have after Garrett Wilson? Oh, that's a good question. So if I look at their roster, because it's no one's super good. Justin Fields, quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, the backup. Breece Hall and Braylon Allen as the wide receiver. Garrett Wilson, Josh Reynolds, and Alan Lazard. So I'm not really impressed by the starters that they have, according to ESPN. But they do have some young guys. Malachi Corley on this team. Tyler Johnson on this team. They have some guys. They brought in young players that, could make some noise. So I remember if Malachi Corley was drafted this year or last year. He was drafted last year. And he put 3 receptions, 16 yards. Yeah, he didn't get to play a lot last year. But I think this year he could see the field a lot more. He was a 3rd-round pick. So did he get hurt last year? I don't remember. But he kind of looks like Killmonger. Tight end, they have Mason Taylor. I don't know who that is. Is he a rookie? Because never heard of him. Yep, he's a rookie 2nd-round pick out of LSU, looks like. Yep. So we'll see how good he is. But, yeah, I'm not really that concerned about the Jets like that on offense. I think that their running game is going to carry their offense for the most part. And they're going to be relying on Justin Fields' mobility. And, yeah, they could be a team that's looking to trade for a wide receiver later on in the season. We'll see what happens there. But, yeah, they're the Jets. Now, moving on to the next team, number 20, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I was thinking about putting the Dallas Cowboys at 22. Okay. My buddy convinced me otherwise because Dak Prescott is healthy, and whenever Dak is healthy, if he plays the whole year, the Cowboys usually put up 11 wins, make the playoffs, and then get torn to shreds in the playoffs, right? That's a totally valid reason why I would put them a little higher, right? But most people believe that Dallas Cowboys to be a dumpster fire. I don't know if they're a complete dumpster fire, but they're not very good. But they're not bad either. And going out and getting George Pickens is a big deal, even though they really don't have much of a running game. So, quarterback Dak Prescott is back, and they traded with New England to get Joe Milton. Running backs Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jaden Blue. I like Jaden Blue out of Texas. He might take over that room because he's fast. Doesn't have a fumbling issue, but he's fast. Wide receivers, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jalen Tolbert, Kevontae Turpin, Jonathan Mingo, Jalen Brooks. You know, there you go. Dak is regular season MVP and postseason LVP. Yes. So the Jets have to hope Glenn can change that culture. Yes, they do. I think that being in Detroit with Dan Campbell was a very beneficial thing for him. I think it's something he can build on. Now, the Cowboys' offensive line, or tight ends, excuse me, Jake Ferguson, Luke Schoonmaker, solid depth there. You look at their offensive line, Tyler Guyton, Tyler Smith, Tyler Booker, Cooper Beebe, and Terrence Steele. They have a solid offensive line. They did lose one of their veteran offensive linemen to retirement. Defense, Dante Fowler Jr. replacing DeMarcus Lawrence. That's a tough one. But he did have 8.5 sacks last year. Mozzie Smith has been trash since he was drafted. Osa Odigizua, solid interior pass rusher. Micah Parsons, we all know what that guy is. He's a bit of a complainer, but he's pretty good. Linebacker Jack Sanborn, young guy. Demarion Overshone. My buddy is concerned that he may never play again after that gruesome injury last year, but I'm not sure I agree with that. Cornerbacks Deron Bland, Trevon Diggs, and Israel Makuamu. There you go. And then at safety, Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker. So roster's solid, but here's my assessment, right? The offense that has been built around Dak Prescott this season is clearly built to air it out, obviously. A solid offensive line with weapons like CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens at wide receiver, Jake Ferguson and Luke Schoonmaker at tight end, and Jalen Tolbert in the slot. The offense should be high-flying indeed as usual. However, being one-dimensional has always cost them boys in the postseason. Making said postseason will be hard enough with Philly and Washington in their division. Both teams made the playoffs and the NFC Championship game in 24-25. The Cowboys' defense has lost DeMarcus Lawrence and replaced him with Dante Fowler Jr., who is pretty good pass rusher, but not so good against the run. So that means Marshawn Nealon will have to come in on obvious rundowns. The back half of the defense should get a boost with Trevon Diggs and Siobhan Revel. So they did draft Siobhan Revel out of ECU. He's coming off an injury too, so we'll see what happens there. But once he's healthy, Siobhan Revel should be a dog for the Cowboys. I hate the Cowboys too. I've had to discuss, well, how many is that in a row? 3 of the last 4 have been teams I freaking hate. So, next team on the list, the Green Bay Packers. They don't have an owner. They are owned by the people of Green Bay, the taxpayers. So their chairman is here, Ed Policy, general manager Brian Gutekunst, and head coach Matt LaFleur, who is a pretty good head coach. Now, the scoop is Jordan Love came off a rough year in 2024. He was injured, as were most of his weapons. GM Brian Gutekunst restocked the cupboards with Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, and the return of Christian Watson is still unknown. We don't know if he's going to be back because he got hurt pretty bad last year. Right? Let's see. Dallas is a very talented roster, but our front runners, they lack the character to win in the playoffs, especially with a new head coach. Nobody else even considered. Hey, they maybe just be waiting for the talent pool to restock with good talent. Also, to try and get that roster and salary caps this situation right, because I don't know who wants to coach with Jerry Jones. So there's a lot of moving pieces that go into that whole puzzle that is the Dallas Cowboys. But we'll see. We shall see. Now, Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed are a fine pair of wide receivers to flank Matthew Golden at wide receiver, as he will likely play inside and out. The play of the offensive line was concerning and maybe again this year. I don't know what they did to really improve their line, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of promising talent there. Now, the other concern is defense. They're very young in ways and in ways undisciplined. Quay Walker has been a penalty machine and been fined many times, including for putting his hands on staff members. So he put his hands on a training staff member in Green Bay. He didn't. I don't think he hit him, but I think he shoved him. You can't put your hands on personnel. It's the thing. He also shoved one of the Bills' practice squad players when we played them. It's a problem. He's been fined $13,000. So you can't be this undisciplined when playing in the NFL. You have to, hold yourself accountable. Now, he has cost his team quite a bit at times. Aside from Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary, there aren't many well-known players on this defense. They did just get rid of Jair Alexander, who's now on the Ravens. So this is why they're here at 19. They're also in a tough division. They got the Vikings. They got the Bears. They got the freaking Vikings, Bears, and the Lions in this division. Like, this is gonna be a tough one for the Packers. They're probably the worst team in that division. Maybe they can, fix stuff and bounce back. I don't want to say that they can't, but it's not looking good. All right, moving on to the next team. The Atlanta Falcons. Their owner, Arthur Blank. I think we're all familiar with that guy. He was so happy when they won the NFC Championship game a few years ago. Probably almost 10 years ago. GM Terry Fontenot and head coach Raheem Morris. The Falcons should be an improved team in a weak division. The NFC South has been run through Tampa for the last few years, and now the Falcons are playing QB Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. He had some times last year after replacing Kirk Cousins and looked pretty good. Like, it was not a lot of games. Michael Penix Jr. did not play a ton of ball last year, but when he did play, he looked good. And they did draft him in the first round, and it looked like they were trying to trade Kirk Cousins. Instead, he took a little pay cut and stayed. But Michael Penix Jr. is their starter, left-handed quarterback, University of Washington, went to the national championship, lost in that game, showed tremendous heart, getting blasted by, I think it was Michigan. And, he's a QB with heart, right? He's a QB with heart. Green Bay should be above Atlanta, in my opinion. I disagree. Main reason is the roster, right? And we'll go over my scoop first. So the Falcons should be improved. Tampa Michael Jr., Washington, Kirk Cousins. See, the addition of Darnell Mooney at wide receiver 2 should help as well. On defense, the return of Leonard Floyd should be a big helping veteran presence for the rookie edge rusher Jalen Walker. James Pierce Jr. and Arnold Ebiketie round out their depth and rotation at edge. And A.J. Terrell, Mike Hughes, and D. Alford round out a solid starting cornerback room. Running back Bijan Robinson should be more of a bell cow back this year, his third year, even though they do have quality depth in Tyler Algier. Ohio State won the national championship this year. Michigan won it the year prior when they beat Washington. And after that game, Michael Penix Jr. was drafted. All right, anyway, getting back to it. I like Michael Penix Jr. more than I like Jordan Love. That might not be a popular take. I do. Not by much, but I do. Bijan Robinson, clearly better than any running back on the Packers roster. Having an excellent running back like that truly helps your quarterback, especially when you have a young rookie like Michael Penix Jr., who is extremely accurate. Extremely accurate. He's got Drake London, Paul Mooney, Raymond McLeod, right? Casey Washington, Jamal Agnew. He's got speed. And now with Darnell Mooney, he's got a route runner alongside Drake London. Kyle Pitts does need to step it up, but he has the talent to do so. Look at their offensive line. Jake Matthews, Matthew Bergeron, Chris Lindstrom. They have a solid line now in front of this guy. You look at the defense, Morgan Fox, Rook Ororo. Rook Ororo had a solid rookie year. Look at him. He put up what? No, he did not. I'm thinking about somebody else. Yeah, that was terrible. Leonard Floyd's back, everybody. I have Divine Diablo, which is a weird name to be a Divine Devil, but it is what it is. Jalen Walker coming from the University of Georgia, AJ Terrell, Jesse Bates at safety, Jordan Fuller at safety, Mike Hughes. I see promise on this Atlanta team. I don't think that the Packers are better. The Packers' defense to me is just complete dog water. But the Falcons' defense I don't think is much better. We'll see. Well, I'll say we'll see. I could be wrong on this one. Moving on. The New England Patriots, number 17. They have done a whole lot this year. The Patriots have done a whole lot this offseason. Fired Gerard Mayo, brought in Mike Vrabel. They've taken care of Drake May by giving him some more weaponry. And he did as well as he did last year with nobody. Last year, his best wide receiver was freaking Pop Douglas or Demario Douglas. You give him Stephon Diggs and Matt Collins. They're both older dudes. I get it. But they're also both better than what he had last year. Also, they have Kyle Williams, young wide receiver, 𝐃𝐨𝐽 Butte, Jalen Polk, and Javon Baker, Kendrick Bourne. They have a bunch of receivers. Not keeping all these guys. But they got a bunch of wide receivers. And some of these guys are going on the practice squad, and some of these guys are getting poached. So they have a true competition to see who's going to be the best for them. And then they got guys who are going to go to other teams just based on the fact that they have talent. Tight end Hunter Henry, backup Austin Hooper. That's a solid backup tight end. Look at their offensive line, very much improved. They went and drafted Will Campbell. They moved Cole Strange to guard. They brought in Garrett Bradbury at center. They have Mike Nwenyu. And then Morgan Moses comes over. They have a really good offensive line now. Drake May was running for his life last year. He was, on average, the most sacked QB. Not total. Well, actually, it might have been total. But it was a rough year to be a Patriots QB last year. No line, no weapons, and he still looked pretty solid doing it. So that, to me, speaks volumes. So the Vrabel hire was a good move. They have been drafting well recently. May is a promising QB so far. They could finish second in the AFC East. I think they will finish second in the AFC East. I think they will. I don't think they have as much talent necessarily as the Jets, but I think that they're coached better. Vrabel, obviously, and their quarterback. Drake May is, to me, talent-wise, light years ahead of Justin Fields. Yeah. Just how I feel. Now, the scoop is quarterback Drake May was impressive last season with terrible coaching. Fast forward to this year, enter Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel coached a Ryan Tannehill-led Tennessee team to the playoffs, and in one of those years held the 1 seed. May is, in my opinion, far more physically talented now, and now has vastly improved talent pool around him. Adding Stephon Diggs and Matt Collins to a very young wide receiver room should help this team's young wide receivers through not just mentorship, but competition, right? So Diggs and Matt Collins are not just there to mentor these guys, but to actually compete with them and bring out the best in them. Additions on the offensive line cannot be overlooked either, with Will Campbell, Morgan Moses, and Garrett Bradbury, whose arrivals moves Cole Strange to guard. On defense, the additions of defensive lineman Milton Williams, linebacker Robert Spillane, who left the Raiders, and the Raiders went and signed Jermaine Pratt. That move I thought was brilliant. This move right here to me is brilliant, bringing Robert Spillane for the Patriots, because he is a good linebacker. He just isn't a Lone Ranger. And they brought in quarterback Carlton Davis III. should help bolster an already tough defense. Many competent moves were made, right? The Patriots have made some competent moves. Just flat out intelligent. They had to spend a certain amount of money because there is a cap that you have to stay under, but there's also a cap that you have to be above. You have to spend a certain amount of money per year on players. Whew. So the Patriots, number 17. Number 16, the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? These guys are probably going to make the playoffs, right? Now, 16th is outside the playoffs, but they're probably going to make the playoffs. They find a way to sneak in every year, except for like 1 or 2 years. Mike Tomlin has yet to have a losing season, and now you gave him Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if that really matters that much, but the fact that it's Mike Tomlin and now he's got Aaron Rodgers, that to me says something different than, oh, Aaron Rodgers is a Jet. Well, no one cares because the Jets suck, and the Jets are going to Jet. The Steelers are going to steal her. They're going to win 10 games minimum. And Aaron Rodgers last year didn't put up bad numbers. If the Steelers can get out of Aaron Rodgers what the Jets did, 3,800 yards, 28 touchdowns, 63% completion percentage, they can do pretty well with that, right? If anybody here thinks that Mason Rudolph was going to do what Aaron Rodgers is going to do, you're out of your mind, right? Unless Mason Rudolph has a complete shift in personality and mindset, it's not going to happen. Now, I think that Rodgers went to the right place this time for himself, but head coach Tomlin is not a pushover. It could be interesting to see how Tomlin handles Rodgers. Oh, okay. I don't know if you handle Aaron Rodgers. You just kind of tolerate him. But that's neither here nor there. It's not my quarterback. I don't care. But it's going to be interesting because he put up solid numbers for the Jets last year. The Jets just suck. Is what it is. Now they've moved on from Najee Harris. Najee Harris is now in L.A. with the Chargers. But Jaylen Warren, man, he looked like he was taking that job either way. They weren't going to pay Najee Harris when you got this dog back here, Jaylen Warren, wanting to freaking run people over. Then they went and traded for DK Metcalf, and they got rid of George Pickens. And I don't know if it was just like a personality thing, but, man, they also had Calvin Austin III and Bobby Trees, Robert Woods, Pat Frymuth, good tight end, and Jonnu Smith. That's crazy. And Darnell Washington to be their third down, big freaking blocking tight end. And then on the offensive line, Broderick Jones, Isaac Seumalo, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, and Troy Fautanu. They've done a good job at bolstering the O-line. That line is way better than what Aaron Rodgers was working with last year. The weapons, I believe, are more suitable for him. They also got Roman Wilson and Scotty Miller on that team. Also, Ben Skoranek. So they have a bunch of guys who can play inside and out. Moving down to the defense, Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Man, what a monster that is. And Keanu Benton at nose tackle. Keanu Benton, I've heard that name before. Second-round pick out of Wisconsin a couple years ago. Okay, that's how I've heard him. Cam Hayward, TJ Watt just re-signed Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson. Peyton Wilson last year was nice. I don't know if y'all watched the Steelers at all. Peyton Wilson was nice last year for the Steelers. That boy's fast. You look at their cornerback room, Darius Slay, freaking Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey, that Corey Trice Jr. They've got some dudes. And that safety, Deshaun Elliott, to replace freaking Minkah Fitzpatrick, and then Juan Thornhill coming over from Cleveland. Actually, I think Deshaun Elliott was last year. Juan Thornhill is coming over to replace Minkah Fitzpatrick, free safety, the deep safety. And Juan Thornhill's pretty good. Played pretty good when he was on the Chiefs. Suitable, if you give him an assignment, he'll take care of it. See, is the Steelers roster this year more talented than the Jets last year? Ooh, that's a toughie because, edge rushers, they got TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. Those guys are dogs. Yeah, I'd say they are. But the Jets this year, incredibly talented still. Yeah. But the Steelers are sure did take a while to get a quarterback, waiting on Aaron Rodgers. is going to be either a huge win or a big mistake. Acquiring DK Metcalf in a trade with Seattle was a brilliant move, but trading George Pickens is a bit of a head-scratcher. Now, it's a head-scratcher because of how talented he is, but I don't know the mindset, the mentality. I don't know if he's going to really mesh well with Aaron Rodgers. We do know Garrett Wilson did not in New York, so that's kind of, go get somebody who's more of a nice guy, in person, like DK Metcalf, and then you let go of the other guy, so you have replaced the guy. And DK Metcalf, excellent wide receiver, so physically talented, fast, strong. Aaron Rodgers can do something with that. On defense, general manager Omar Khan put in some serious work acquiring cornerback Darius Slade, Jalen Ramsey, defensive lineman Derek Harmon, and safety Juan Thornhill to replace the departing Minkah Fitzpatrick. This defensive unit, see, I did the research. It was in my slide. I could have just read my slide and not sat here wondering who replaced Minkah Fitzpatrick. This defensive unit should improve quite a bit, and the offense should be more precise with Aaron Rodgers at QB. Having Russell Wilson and Justin Fields under center was likely far less orderly than Aaron, and giving Aaron weapons like a Jalen Warren, DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Robert Woods, and Pratt Freiermuth with a solid offensive line is a recipe for success. We shall see, but I see improvement in Pittsburgh. I read George Pickens as a diva, and that could have been a real bad mix with Aaron Rodgers. Hot take here. The fact that you get these diva wide receivers could be why the Packers just never drafted one in the first round. That's where you draft divas. I mean, sometimes you get a Stephon Diggs who becomes one later on after heavy success, but you draft the divas in the first round most of the time, I think. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. Moving on. Chicago Bears, owned by George McCaskey, general manager Ryan Poles, and head coach Ben Johnson. The Bears put in some serious work in their acquisitions department this offseason. They stole away division rival Detroit Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson as their new head coach, and immediately he and Ryan Poles went to work on the roster, bringing in offensive lineman Joe Thuney to protect a young QB Caleb Williams, drafting tight end Colston Loveland to pair with Cole Kmet, and drafting wide receiver Luther Burden to team with DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. Dynamic play designer and play caller Ben Johnson has so much young potential on this roster that fans may expect success before it actually comes. Could be instant, but it could take a while. The Bears are also in a tough division. The NFC North is not an easy go. The Lions, Packers, and Vikings are all making nice moves to achieve their lofty goals. The Bears have a mean front seven on defense with Montez Sweat, Grady Jarrett, TJ Edwards, and Tremaine Edmonds. And that's me being complimentary of Tremaine Edmonds, which I think he's a very good player, but I don't think he's as good as we made him out to be. I don't think he's lived up to the first round grade, but that's okay. He's a good linebacker. Now, looking at their roster here, and Case Keenum's sitting right there. That's the guy who put the Vikings, had the Minnesota Miracle to Stephon Diggs, and had that first season I was talking about earlier when I was talking about the Vikings. Not talking about the Vikings, but talking about some other team that had him. Case Keenum, right there he is. Now, running back room could use some work. They have DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, but that's a solid room. Roschon Johnson's a power guy. DeAndre Swift is, obviously, as his name says, the Swift guy. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden III. Then you have Olamide Zacchaeus, Devin Duvernay, and Tyler Scott. They have some speed at wide receiver, but when you have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and Luther Burden, you've got guys who are precision players. If you need somebody to take the top off, Olamide Zacchaeus is a guy you can put in. Devin Duvernay, probably a good return man for them. He did that in Baltimore. Also another speed guy. They got some speed there. Looking at their offensive line, Braxton Jones, Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, and Darnell Wright. Very much improved offensive line. I think Caleb Williams should be much better protected. And their defensive line is crazy with Montez Sweat, Grady Jarrett, and then Dayo Adeyingbu. Then you look at Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards. That's pretty good. Now, Ruben Hippolyte, I don't know who that is. Could be a rookie or something like that. He is a rookie, in fact, 4th-round pick out of Maryland. He is 5'11", 236, so he's a little short for a linebacker, but he is supposed to be the hitter. Cornerback, they're pretty good. Tyreek Stevenson and Jalen Johnson. At safety, Jaquan Brisker and Kevin Byard. And then Kyler Gordon, solid nickel cornerback. Like these guys are set talent-wise, but they need their coach. Nick McLeod, I remember that guy. Used to be a Bill. The Bears' future relies as much on new head coach Ben Johnson's ability to develop QB Caleb Williams into legit franchise QB. If he can, the future is bright. If not, back to purgatory. And that's the thing. Chicago used to be known, or kind of still is known, as the place where quarterbacks and wide receivers go to die. I remember Muhsin Muhammad played in Carolina for all those years, goes to the Bears and just that was it. But that's the nature of the beast. But, yeah, they have a solid roster. Next team, number 14, the Minnesota Vikings. Owners, Ziggy Leonard and Mark Wilf. GM, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, and head coach, Kevin O'Connell. Now, the truth is, Kevin O'Connell has had a pretty sweet run with QBs. Been to the playoffs with Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold. His own first-round pick, J.J. McCarthy, is next up. Coming off an ACL tear last preseason, O'Connell put on a masterclass performance with Sam Darnold. I mean, having Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, and T.J. Hawkinson doesn't hurt either, and that's why J.J. McCarthy could really succeed. He has one of the best weapons caches in football and a pretty good O-line. The defense is pretty good, too. Jonathan Allen, Harrison Phillips, and Javon Hargrave round out an excellent 3-4 D-line, and last season, edge rushers Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel really came on. A very strong front seven will benefit a young secondary, causing real problems up front for the opponent. And that's really it. Their head coach has been very, very good at making something out of nothing and then sending that nothing to Seattle. And now he's got his young guy in J.J. McCarthy, who won a national championship in Michigan against Michael Penix in Washington. Full circle. Running back Aaron Jones, solid player. They also have Ty Chandler and Jordan Mason. I don't know who Jordan Mason is, so meh. But wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Naylor. Was he a pick this year or last year? He was last year, I think. Yeah. No, before that. 414 yards this past year with six touchdowns. Not bad. But he's a good complimentary piece. Ty Felton, Rondale Moore, and Tim Jones are their depth at receiver. TJ Hawkinson and Josh Oliver makes up the tight end room. Christian Darrisaw, Donovan Jackson, Ryan Kelly, Will Fries, and Brian O'Neill. Solid offensive line. Defensive line, Jonathan Allen, Harrison Phillips, Javon Hargrave. Already nasty off the top. Grenard and Van Ginkel, nasty off the side. Ivan Pace Jr., pretty good inside linebacker, along with Blake Cashman. I believe both those guys are former Jets. And the Jets are known for having good linebackers. We got to give them that. The Jets have always had just linebackers that can play. I don't know what it is about the Jets, but good for you. Then at cornerback, Isaiah Rodgers and Mekhi Blackmon, solid there. Byron Murphy Jr. at slot. And then you have Josh Metcalf and Harrison Smith. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful safeties. And then they have Jeff Okudah as depth. So, yeah, the Vikings are fine. I think the Vikings may need some time to really get going. J.J. McCarthy's going to have to develop. Maybe having a year on the bench with a torn ACL is something that is beneficial to him, but we'll see. Next team. There we go. Number 13, Cincinnati Bengals. Again, I think I have them higher than I should. This is this feeling I have. I think I have them higher than I should, but here they are. They're owned by Mike Brown, GM Duke Tobin, head coach Zach Taylor. Scoop. Bengals went all in on offense. Quarterback Joe Burrow is already one of the highest paid players in the NFL, and now the Bengals are paying the top two pass catchers, wide receiver Jamar Chase and wide receiver T. Higgins, making $40 million per season and $28.75 million per season. This has other players on the team also looking for their next payday, namely edge rusher Trey Hendrickson. These things, along with specific language in his contract, has rookie edge rusher Shamar Stewart being the only first-round pick not to sign their contract this season. The Bengals are playing with fire when it comes to their salary cap, and their defense is suffering for it. The Bengals' offense is going to be electric, but they're going to have to win big shootouts. I'm talking 45-42 on a weekly basis. They're going to have to put up big points because their defense sucks so damn bad. I don't know what they're thinking, that the players are just going to fall in line, but while you're paying other guys crazy money and not paying them. Like, oh, I'm going to do what I do, and Trey Henderson getting 14 sacks this year, or whatever the number was, some crazy-ass number, and 17.5. Excuse me, I was a little low on that. And you're going to go and give T. Higgins $28.75 million a year, and I can't get paid. Man, to hell with that. That's crazy to me. So you look at these guys. Joe Burrow, he's got Desmond Ridder behind him. And then Chase Brown has got Zach Moss and Samaje Perine behind him. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Andre Yoshivas. Then you have Jermaine Burton, who was drafted last year out of Bama. Charlie Jones and Kendrick Pryor. Mike Gesicki's coming back. Behind him is Drew Sample, and then behind him is Eric All Jr. Their offensive line, Orlando Brown Jr., Cordell Volson, Ted Karras, Cody Ford, and Demarius Mims. This is what got old boy hurt last year, or the year before that. Freaking Joe Burrow. And he puts up good numbers, but this is stupid. And this is why I believe I have them too high. I have them this high because they're going to win a bunch of games because Joe Burrow and those weapons are that good. But my question is, if Joe Burrow is so freaking good, why does he need these weapons? If he's that freaking good, why? Josh Allen don't have those weapons. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have those weapons. Lamar Jackson doesn't have those weapons. Joe Burrow didn't get good until he got Chase, and now he's going to have Chase forever, but he's got no freaking defense to help. And the players they drafted on defense doesn't want to be there. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. Defense freaking sucks. Moving on. Denver Broncos. Tell you what, guys. The Denver Broncos are a team on the ascent. And I'm just going to read the card. As the 2024 season moved along, the quarterback Bo Nix started to grasp head coach Sean Payton's offense. He was getting better week to week and helped the Denver Broncos make the 24 playoffs, where they lost in a wild card to the Buffalo Bills. So, of course, with as much success as was had in Bo's rookie season, the plan is to build upon that success. The joker position is something Sean Payton loves to have on offense. Basically, a player who can line up anywhere on offense, and that is tight end Evan Engram, who they brought in from the Jacksonville Jaguars. The defense was already really good, but the addition of cornerback Jahdae Barron from Texas, who should pair very nicely with cornerback Patrick Surtain II, from the line to the linebackers to the secondary, the Denver Broncos defense is strong. The Broncos under Sean Payton pose a real threat to the Chiefs. See, Burrow is elite with his wide receivers, but how would he do in everybody eats offense like Buffalo? I have no idea. I don't think it'd be very good. I like Joe Burrow, but that situation is stupid. It's stupid. Now, looking at the Broncos, the Broncos are a solidly built team. Like, Sean Payton got there and just immediately cleaned house, getting rid of Russell Wilson and all the nonsense that he brought along with him, and went and drafted Bo Nix, running back R.J. Harvey, who I don't know who that is, J.K. Dobbins, I know who that is, and Audric Estime. So, R.J. Harvey, where'd you come from, buddy? He is a second-round pick this year, 5'8", 205 pounds, so he's a little bowling ball of a man from UCF. We'll see if he's good. Wide receivers, Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and Devon Vele, who all looked pretty good going into the playoffs last season. They played well last year. Troy Franklin, rookie wide receiver from Oregon last year, who played in college with Bo Nix. Maybe he'll see a little more of the field. They also have Trent Sherfield, a familiar name for Bills fans, who, we don't want to talk about him. made some good plays for us, but also just left a lot on the line. Looking at tight end Evan Ingram and Adam Trautman. Evan Ingram, again, playing the joker position for them. He'll be lined up everywhere. Offensive line, Garrett Bowles, Ben Powers, Luke Wattenberg, Quinn Miners, and Mike McGlinchey. That's a damn good offensive line. Looking at the defense, Zach Allen, DJ Jones, John Franklin Myers. That defensive line is pretty stout. And then at edge rushers, you have Nick Bonito and then Jonathan Cooper, who is a round 7 pick from a few years ago. He had 10.5 sacks last year. It's pretty good. And Nick Bonito, we know about him. He played pretty well last year too. They also picked up Dre Greenlaw from the Niners. And they picked up 𝐶𝐨𝐵𝐿𝐼 𝐸𝐵𝐿𝐼 from the Niners as well. So they're on their way. The Broncos have a good freaking roster. Moving on. San Francisco 49ers, another team who I probably have too high, but at least I like them. Now, the 49ers are – I'll just read the damn card. They're owned by Jed York, general manager John Lynch, and head coach Kyle Shanahan. The 49ers are in a weird spot. They have so many players who were injured last season. Wide receiver Brandon Ayuk and Ricky Pearsall immediately come to mind. Also, running back Christian McCaffrey has had his bouts with injuries seemingly every other year. QB Brock Purdy just got paid, and lucky for him, he has Jauan Jennings, Jacob Cowing, and Demarcus Robinson to throw to, and tight end George Kittle. Shanahan has his work cut out for him. Right? He does. But we've seen him work magic in the past. Now on defense, the 49ers went to town in the draft. Edge rusher Mykel Williams, linebacker Nick Martin, and cornerback Upton Stout all seem to be in position to start, mainly because of the losses of linebacker Dre Greenlaw, edge rusher Leonard Floyd, and cornerback Javarius Ward. There's a youth movement in San Francisco, much needed and right on time. Their stars have fallen, right? They've lost a bunch of stars. Dre Greenlaw, Ufanga, Javarius Ward, Leonard Floyd. They've lost guys who were really putting up numbers for them, and now the Niners are in this position. CMC got hurt again in Buffalo game last year. Those injuries are adding up. They are adding up. I think he was already hurt before the game. He was just trying to play through it, and that was a mistake, obviously, because he went down not looking good. But he doesn't have an injury indicator right now, so that's good for them. If you look at their roster, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Isaac Guerrero at running back, I think is going to be pretty good. Ran a real fast 40 time, and he's like 225 pounds. He's a big running back. And you got Brandon Ayuk, who's out. Jauan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. Jauan Jennings isn't out, but Pearsall is. Demarcus Robinson, Jacob Cowing, and Jordan Watkins. I mean, you got a bunch of, mid-tier receivers. Isaiah Nair, Junior Burgeon, Russell Gage. Like, there's a bunch of either nobodies or guys who just aren't prepared to play that much ball. George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, I thought he was released. Let me look him up. I thought they released him. Is an American football player, fullback for them. Oh, he's on the Niners again. Okay. So he still got the juice. Defensive line, Mykel Williams, Kevin Givens, Jordan Elliott, Nick Bosa. So solid on the edges. D. Winters and Fred Warner, solid at linebacker there. Nick Martin, young player, rookie, I believe. Diamador Lenore takes over as the CB1. Renardo Green takes place at CB2. Upton Stout takes place at nickel, and then you have Jair Brown and Malik Mustafa. We'll see what they do, man. We'll see what they do. The Niners are, again, a team I might have put too high. Dropping to number 10, we have the Houston Texans at number 10. They've had a rocky road as well. They've had some issues here and there. I'll go over it. Owner is Cal McNair. I put McNair for some reason. GM Nick Caserio, and head coach is D'Amico Ryans, who has been a pretty good head coach thus far. The Texans had an interesting offseason. They lost and got rid of many players or key pieces of last year's team. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs and Robert Woods out the door. Offensive lineman Laremy Tunsil, Kendrick Green, and Kenyon Green also out the door, along with Shaq Mason. And they've all gone and moved on to other teams. Each one of those players is on somebody else. On defense, most of the players lost were merely depth players, and so the defense remains mostly intact. 9 starters return, and incoming players who are competing to start include EJ Speed and safety Chauncey Gardner or CJ Gardner-Johnson. The main concern for Houston is on the offensive side of the ball. Last year, all of QB CJ Stroud's top 2 wide receivers were injured. That's true. 2 of them were season-ending injuries with Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs. Diggs is no longer in the squad. He's now in New England. Tank Dell remains, but will likely miss some time because of the catastrophic knee injury he suffered. Still having weapons like Joe Mixon, Nico Collins, Jaden Higgins, who I loved coming out. Jaden Higgins was one of my draft crushes. Jalen Noel, John Mechie III, and Dalton Schultz is pretty good. The offensive line is the concern for CJ, right? So looking at their O-line, I was not too impressed. Cam Robinson, Laken Tomlinson, Jake Andrews, Titus Howard, and Blake Fisher. A whole lot of average. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Next team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Owned by the Glazer family. Jason Licht is the GM and Todd Bowles is the head coach. And they've done wonders since they acquired Baker Mayfield, which is crazy because they had Tom Brady before that. Won a Super Bowl, made the playoffs, but then, fell off after that. So, sorry about that. We'll read the card, but yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a team who I actually believe is quite underrated, in my opinion. So, Tampa, to me, is the most underrated team in the NFL. QB Baker Mayfield has truly found himself a home in Tampa, even after losing OC Dave Canales last season to the Panthers head coaching position. Bucky Irving had an outstanding rookie campaign, putting up 1,122 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. The wide receiver room is stacked, full of veteran and young talent, from Mike Evans, Sterling Shepard, and Chris Godwin to 𝐬𝐫 𝐾𝐿, Jalen McMillan, and Tez Johnson. Cade Otton is a good tight end, and the line is solid. The Buccaneers also have solid defense, especially up front, with Vita Vea, 𝐃𝐨𝐵𝐿 on the line, and Hassan Reddick and Levante David, Anthony Walker Jr., and Yaya Diaby at linebacker. Their defensive back lineup is also really good. Antoine Winfield Jr., Tyreek Key Smith, Jamel Dean, Zion McCollum, and Christian 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿, who is the worst of that group, and he's still not bad, are good. And their front will help, but some are getting old. Some of these guys are getting old on this team. Like the Bucs are a team that's slept on. You look at guys like Vita Vea, he's getting a little older, but he's a defensive tackle, so they last a little longer usually. Mike Evans is getting older. Chris Godwin suffered a bunch of injuries, but you've got guys like Jalen McMillan, Sterling Shepard on this team, Trey Palmer, Tez Johnson, who are guys that you can help build up, or you can make moves to bring in new young talent around. 𝐸𝐵𝐿 𝐾𝐿, in my opinion, is going to play mostly in the slot, and he was a solid pickup. I liked him. If the Bills didn't have so many slot weapons, I wouldn't have minded us drafting 𝐸𝐵𝐿 𝐾𝐿, but he wouldn't fit on a team like the Bills where we're looking for guys who can play inside and out. To me, he's mostly an inside guy. Tristan Wirfs is injured, but he should be fine for the season. Ben Bredesen, Graham Barton, Cody Mauch, and Luke Gadecki, solid players on the offensive line. Baker's done well being mobile and using his ability to navigate the pocket to truly make the most of it. And I already talked about the defense. They've got some dogs over there. Levante David's getting old too. They will be needing to retool a little bit on the defensive line probably in the next couple of years, but yeah, they got some talent. They got some talent. They are very underrated in my book. I think the Bucs have another good year and give Baker a big contract. They already did. They just resigned him to like a 3-year, like $100-something million. Let me see, Baker. I mean, if you mean a big deal like 40 to 50 a year. That might be a little bit crazy. Baker Mayfield contract. 3 year, $100 million. So $33.33333 million per year. Yeah. And he just signed it. So he's gonna be around. Now, if he has another good year, yeah, it could be a thing. Let me see. Go Spot Track. His contract started in 2020. Okay, so he's got 2 more years. So yeah, if he puts up big numbers this year and does really well, they could aim to extend him because his cap hit in 2026 is $49.375 million. They could look to extend him and then push that money so that way he can, make more and stick around with the team. So I agree that's pretty good. So they drafted a good rookie wide receiver. They did. 𝐸𝐵𝐿 𝐸𝐿 is a good rookie wide receiver out of Ohio State. Now, moving on to the next team, the Los Angeles Chargers, right? These guys have a hell of a head coach. They have Jim Harbaugh, who took a team in the 49ers to the Super Bowl with a subpar quarterback, in my opinion. He was playing very well that year, but just never really hit it big in Colin Kaepernick. Was a fan of him early on when he was playing very well, and then he kind of fizzled out early. And I don't know what the deal with that was. I remember after the Super Bowl, that first game back, he threw like 4 interceptions in the season premiere. It was rough. But neither here nor there. I believe that year he lost his job to, I forget his name, but he was a former Jacksonville Jaguar first overall pick or first round pick. Blonde-haired kid out of Michigan, I forget, or not Michigan, Missouri. But yeah, it was a problem. But Justin Herbert, he had a pretty solid year this year. I think he could use, some more of what Jim Harbaugh's feeding him because he put up 3,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Pretty good numbers. He could use more touchdowns, in my opinion, but 23-3, that's pretty outstanding. That's more than 7 touchdowns to 1 interception. And they went really, really went heavy, and they didn't have any star power running backs. So here we go. Here's the card. They're owned by Dean Spanos and Tom Gores, GM Joe Hortiz, and head coach Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh brought balance on offense in 2024, even without a premier running back. Now he has Najee Harris and first-round pick Omarion Hampton. So I expect the Chargers offense to run similar to the Bills, balanced with fewer passes and a QB-friendly run game that will keep Justin Herbert from being overwhelmed. The wide receiver room is solid as well, with Ladd McConkey coming into his second year, or coming to year 2 after a strong rookie year, and Quentin Johnson playing as a good wide receiver too. The offensive line is also pretty good. The defense is also stacked with talent. This is why they're a top 8 team, right? The problem is one of the top 3 teams is in their division. That's the big problem there. Justin Herbert being overwhelmed. The defense is also stacked with talent. Veteran edge rusher Khalil Mack returns to the team, and third-year man Tuli Tuipulotu is coming off of a breakout 8.5 sack season. So they lost Joey Bosa, but they got a guy in Tuipulotu who put up 8.5 sacks last season. Right? He's going to be 23 years old, and I'm reading this right here. Will be 23 years old going into year 3. Deshaun Hand, Tyre Tart, and Otito Ogbonnia round out the D-line for the 3-4 defense, and Deion Henley and Junior Colson round out the linebackers. Their DBs are pretty good as well, rounded out by Derwin James, Tarheeb Still, and Dante Jackson. Dante Jackson had like 5 interceptions last year. He's 29 years old. He's kind of a late bloomer, kind of like a Rasul Douglas, but he had a damn good year last year. So the Chargers are on their way. Jim Harbaugh's probably going to end up signing more players or getting some more depth that he can help boost up. But also in the DB room, he's got Elijah Molden, Tony Jefferson to back up Alohi Gilman and Derwin James. Those are quality names. He's also got Bud Dupree backing up Khalil Mack. So Bud Dupree fell off a long time ago. But as a depth player, that guy can play. That guy can play. Also, depth linebacker, Denzel Perryman. I'm not mad at these players that they got here. And they drafted 𝐼𝐨𝐫𝐿 Gadsden II, my boy from Syracuse. So, hey, put my boy on the field. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, next team. The Washington Commanders. Right? They're a lot like the Chargers. They're really good. They have a good coach. They have good players. They have a nice young quarterback. They play in the same division as a juggernaut. And they found out the hard way in the NFC Championship game last year. Now, I'll read the damn card because the show's going on 2 hours now. Here we go. Owner, Josh Harris. GM, Adam Peters. Head coach, Dan Quinn. Scoop. In 2024, Dan Quinn left the Dallas Cowboys to become the head coach in Washington. Drafting Jaden Daniels was the best move he could have made and was clearly the steal of the draft, being he was taken after Caleb Williams. The NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year, along with Quinn, led the Commanders to the NFC title game against the NFC East rival Philadelphia Eagles, where they fell short. The weapons like Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Noah Brown, Zach Ertz, and Brian Robinson, the Commanders are in a good spot to make another deep playoff run. The defensive line is comprised of veterans like Von Miller, Javon Kinlaw, Darren Payne, and Dietrich Wise, and Dorrance Armstrong. Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, and Dominic Hampton round out the linebacker core. The DBs are rounded out by cornerbacks Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Saintrill, who had a pretty good year last year as well, and Noah Igbinoghene. Will Harris and Quan Martin at safety. The Commanders are good, man. They have a good, solid roster. They have a good head coach. The Eagles are a freaking problem. The Eagles are a problem. Moving on to the next team. Here we go. The Los Angeles Rams. So we had Chargers at 8, Rams at 6, and the Rams are outstanding. So I'm going to go ahead and read the card, and if we need to go pull up the roster and look at who they got, we can do that. But, man, they really are a damn good team. Last year they beat us in a shootout, which is crazy. Matthew Stafford clearly still has it. 37 years old. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I see Daniel Gary's back in here. It'll be interesting to see how Daniels does in his sophomore season. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't CJ Stroud it, but his team didn't get gutted. They look like they got better, so we'll see what happens. But the Rams, owned by Stan Kroenke, general manager Les Snead, head coach Sean McVay. Going into his age 37 season, Matthew Stafford returned to the Rams on a lighter deal than he thought after not finding a trade partner. Sean McVay had his team humming down the stretch last year, and with additions like Devontae Adams and moving on from injury-prone Cooper Kupp, they shouldn't miss a beat. With a strong core on offense with running back Kyren Williams and Blake Corum, wide receivers Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell, Adams, and tight end Tyler Higbee, Matt Stafford should be able to keep pace. The Rams years. I mean, all right. The Rams went years with no first-round pick until last year. Last year, they took cut it out. Cut the slipper. Rams went years with no first-round pick until last year. Last year, they took Jared Verse and Braden Fisk in the first 2 rounds, and they have been wreaking havoc, right? Those 2 guys were nasty in their rookie years, and they went to Florida State together, so they could play off each other very well. So, yeah, in my opinion, Matt Stafford is the number 5 best QB. The Rams gave the Eagles fits in the playoffs. They did. The Rams, if they would have won that game, they could have been in the Super Bowl playing against the Chiefs and given the Chiefs hell. That would have been an interesting Super Bowl. Rams Chiefs. But, I digress. So they have been wreaking havoc after the departure of Aaron Donald. Les Snead has been excellent at crafting this roster, and McVay has been excellent at coaching and developing the talent on the team. The way I see it, Fisk, Poona Ford, and Kobe Turner have formed out one of the best 3-4 lines in football, and pass rushers Jared Verse and Byron Young are a force on the edge. The DBs are happy for sure in LA. So, yeah. The Rams, man, I think they can really make some noise this year. I think that it was best for them and Matt Stafford to stay together. All this talk about him going somewhere and then them doing what at quarterback? Doing what? Are they going to draft Jackson Dart? Nah, okay, whatever. Anyways, moving on. Number 5, the Detroit Lions, and these guys right here, if they can stay healthy in the playoffs, man, they could probably some damage. The Lions have been, their owner, Sheila Ford, general manager, Brad Holmes, and head coach, Dan Campbell. The Lions have been excellent, but struggled in the playoffs. The injury bug has gotten them late in the last 2 seasons, and now they're without their OC, Ben Johnson, and defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, who have moved on to become head coaches for the Bears and Jets, respectively. Jared Goff played at an MVP level last year, and after the injury to running back David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs took over that and looks to not relinquish the starting role in Detroit. Wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown looks to come back and continue to dominate, and Jameson Williams and Tim Patrick are good wide receivers 2 and 3. Tight end Sam Laporta and the offensive line return, only really missing the retired Frank Ragnow, who is one of the best centers in football. Defensive end Aiden Hutchinson is returning from a horrific leg injury and will likely take some time. Otherwise, the defensive line is pretty good, especially after drafting Tyleik Williams from Ohio State. Linebackers Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, and Derek Barnes are a very solid unit. The DBs are excellent, and adding DJ Reed was brilliant. And the Lions are a team that really put stuff together last year. They were the 1 seed in the NFC, which is crazy because the Lions have never really done anything in our lifetimes, and now all of a sudden they're good. They get this crazy Dan Campbell guy who wants to bite kneecaps off, and they're good. They traded Matthew Stafford to the Rams, and I'm sitting here talking about them being potentially better than the Rams. But you look at their roster: quarterback Jared Goff, running back Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery coming back, wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Tim Patrick, Isaac Tesla. Like they've got some players there. Then you look at safety: Sam Laporta and Brock Wright, Kenny Yeboah. Offensive line: Tyler Decker, Christian Mahogany, Graham Glasgow, who's solid center in Graham Glasgow, but losing Frank Ragnow is huge. It's huge. Tate Ratledge, don't know much about him, but Penei Sewell is a freaking dog, and he just got paid this past year too. Happy for him. Congratulations, Penei Sewell. I know I'm late, but you're also probably not going to see this, so who cares? See, the Lions in the field the field in the Lions Stadium could be contributing to their injury situation. It got Von Miller. Yeah, it did get Von Miller. See, Dan Campbell shows what a difference a good head coach means for a team. Yeah. The thing is, we're going to see how good he does with new OC and new DC. That's the thing. It's not just one coach. It's a staff. It's a whole staff. So we'll see what happens. Looking at that defense, man. Aiden Hutchinson, Lee McNeil, DJ Reader, Marcus Davenport, Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, Derek Barnes, Terry Arnold, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, DJ Reed, Amik Robinson. That defense is freaking stacked. It's a hell of a defense there. Problem is, I'm looking at the thing, a lot of these guys are injured. And a lot of those injuries are from last year. So, yeah, the injury bug tends to strike them late. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, these guys are all healthy by the time the regular season starts and the Lions can do what the Lions do. Moving on. Number 4, the Baltimore Ravens. Owner Steve Bisciotti, GM Eric DeCosta, head coach John Harbaugh. Here's the scoop. The Ravens remain top contenders in the AFC with Buffalo and Kansas City. QB Lamar Jackson put together another MVP caliber season, falling short of the award and in the playoffs to Josh Allen and the Bills. With an outstanding running back room, starting with freak of nature Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell, running will not be a problem. Wide receiver Zay Flowers returns from injury and seeks to continue his ascent to stardom, while returning Rashad Bateman and the incoming DeAndre Hopkins hope to get the Ravens over the hump. That O-line is going to be a big help. The defense is stacked as well. Standouts include linebacker Roquan Smith, defensive lineman Nnamdi Madubuike, edge rushers Kyle Van Noy and Odafe Owe, safety Kyle Hamilton, cornerbacks Nate Wiggins, Jair Alexander, Marlon Humphrey, and Chidobe Awuzie. The Ravens roster is excellent, and their coaching is good. Super Bowl contenders for sure. That's all we got to say about the Ravens. Like, they're stacked. Like, they got a good O-line. Running backs are solid. Keith Mitchell is a freaking burner if they really need some speed at running back or something like that. If they need to have a running back catch something and then, take off with it, he's that dude. Third down back, Justice Hill. You got a beast in Derrick Henry who play all downs, but, you don't want him to because you still want him to be fresh later in the season. But, man, they are absolutely stacked. They were last year too. But, man, that's crazy. Moving on, number 3. I've got our Buffalo Bills number 3. So anybody who thought that Buffalo Bills were going to be number 1, I'm not a homer on that level. I am a homer somewhat, but I am not on that level of homer. Okay? Ravens are another team that falls short in the playoffs, but so good in the regular season. They fall short pretty bad in the playoffs. We can't get Mahomes. Can't get past Mahomes yet. They can't get past us. So there's that. The scoop. The Bills put in a lot of work this offseason, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Drafting cornerback Maxwell Hairston, defensive tackle TJ Sanders, defensive end Landon Jackson, defensive tackle Deion Walker, and cornerback/safety Jordan Hancock with their first 5 selections, along with cornerback Dorian Strong in the 6th round. That means 6 of 9 selections were on defense, which was the major problem for Buffalo, being that their offense scored the most points this year, including the playoffs. The offense stayed mostly the same. Only wide receivers Amari Cooper and Mac Hollins departed from the main offensive unit. To replace them, Buffalo brought in wide receivers Joshua Palmer and Elijah Moore. Second-year wide receiver Keon Coleman looks to take a big step this season, while Elijah Moore is still looking to find where he belongs in the NFL. In addition, the Buffalo Bills brought in Joey Bosa, Michael Hoyt, Larry Ogunjobi, and Tre'Davious White. These veterans will mentor and compete for time on the field, but youth seems to be the chosen direction of the front office. The Bills are one of 3 teams to sign all their draft picks. That's what I'm talking about. See, Ravens can't get past Buffalo or Kansas City. Yeah, they can't. It's tough. See, number 3 is a realistic ranking for Buffalo, in my opinion. Me too, because the teams above them played in the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it is what it is. You can't put yourself above the teams who were just there. So that's why the Bills are 3. Now, number 2, Kansas City Chiefs, owned by the Hunt family, GM Brett Veach, head coach Andy Reid. We're sticking with the scoops on these because 2 hours has just elapsed. And we already know. Like, we know the Bills, we know the Ravens, we know the Chiefs, we know the Eagles. Like, they're the creams of the crop, so they have the eyes on them. And so that's who we're going to focus on, was the teams prior to them, more so, to see what's going on with the other weaker teams in the league. And then some of the up-and-coming teams in the league, like the Chargers, like the Commanders. Like, I put some emphasis on those teams because those teams are up-and-comers, whereas the Bills, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Ravens are well-established playoff teams that have been to the playoffs every year, really, for like the last 6-7 years. So this is why we're here. Now, the scoop for Kansas City is Kansas City remains the class of the AFC until one of the other teams prize that title from their grasp. Buffalo and Baltimore are the closest competition, and they're both fallen short when playing the Chiefs in the playoffs. They have basically the same weapons from the past couple of years, so expect the similar offense, or expect to see similar offensive production from Mahomes and the offense. They did what cost them. They did. Okay, there we go. They did lose offensive linemen DJ Humphries and Joe Thuney, but that line is what cost them the Super Bowl against Philadelphia. Their defense also could not stop the Eagles' offense in the Super Bowl and allowed 27 points to Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. They also lost some talent on defense. Defensive end Josh Uche, defensive tackle Derek Nottie, defensive tackle Tashawn Wharton, and safety Justin Reed have all signed with new teams. Stepping into the roles are defensive end Mike Dana, defensive tackle Mike Pennell Jr., and safety Jaden Hicks. The D lineman the D defensive line could take a hit in quality, but Hicks may be an upgrade over Reed. Reed's a little older, and last year was not his best year. And so they drafted Jaden Hicks recently, and so time for him to go out there and see what he can do. Again, they're the class of the conference until somebody else goes in there and takes the crown. Now, for the final team in my power rankings, you all know who it is. It is the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles just won the Super Bowl, right? So it's obvious why they're here. Owner is Jeff Lurie, GM Howie Roseman, excellent GM, and head coach Nick Sirianni. Now, the scoop on the Eagles is the Eagles are the current Super Bowl champions. So there's no question as to why they're number one. Jesus. Anyway, they lost a few players here and there, and they used the draft and free agency to restock the roster. In the draft, at 32, they got a steal in linebacker Jihad Campbell from Alabama. I had a top 15 grade on him, but what do I know? The rich got richer, dropping Darius Slay allowed second-year cornerback Cooper DeJean to take the CB2 spot across from fellow second-year cornerback 𝐸𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐞. This team is so stacked, I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Hurts and Saquon led them back to the Super Bowl appearance. The offensive line and wide receiver core are among the best in the league as well. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are easily the first or second best wide receiver duo in the NFL, and the line is the best. Howie Roseman has put together a masterclass in his roster building. There we go. The dogs agree with me, yes. We got one little chihuahua here. She just likes to yip. If I grab her real quick. What's up, pup? Come here. Ooh, she's actually a Chiweenie. So hi, Mama. All right, go back to Mama. It's one of 4 of them. Luckily, only 2 of them started barking. Anyway, dogs agree with me, but yeah, the Eagles are the Eagles are a freaking juggernaut. They're number 1 for a reason. They just won a Super Bowl, and they just keep getting better. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Will Shipley behind. That's enough of that. But yeah, you look at their roster: A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, Terrace Marshall Jr., Dallas Goedert, Grant Calcaterra. You look at their offensive line: Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, and Lane Johnson. Just stacked at every position. A.J. Dillon is their 3rd running back. That's crazy. That's crazy. They should be a favorite to get back to the Super Bowl. I don't know about winning it, but getting back to it, absolutely. They might be favorites to win it. Look at the defensive line: Moro Ojomo, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Linebackers: Nolan Smith Jr., Zach Bond, Nakobe Dean, Azeez Ojulari, and they drafted Jihad Campbell and Jalix Hunt. And they have Jeremiah Trotter Jr. on the team. And Josh Uche from the Chiefs. He defected. He's like, I'm going to greener pastures, literally. Then you look at their corners: Cooper DeJean, 𝐸𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐞, Kelee Ringo. Safeties, Andrew Mukuba, Reed Blankenship. This team is so freaking stout. Sidney Brown is a backup safety on this team. Lewis Cine is a third stringer on this team. That's freaking nuts. This Eagles team is so stout. So stout. Byron Young is a backup on this defensive line. This is freaking stupid. I don't know how he did it. What kind of cap wizardry he's doing, but man, having a quarterback paid on the level of Jalen Hurts, having a running back paid on the level of Saquon Barkley, having a receiver paid at the level of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, then you got that line, which those guys are getting paid too. Like Brandon Beane, you're doing a damn good job at GM. We are the third best team in the NFL probably right now. If you can go and learn a little something from Howie Roseman, that'd be great. He might be able to help you out. Either that or just the 3-4 defense is in at this point in time, and we're just not going to run that. So we'll see what happens. But, guys, that's my power rankings. That's my power rankings. It has been my pleasure and, well, my pride and joy. I did a lot of work for that. This is a 2-hour and probably 2 hours and 15 minutes before I'm done. But I put in like 11, 12 hours of work just doing the studies and putting together those slides. And those slides were not like outstanding. You know, they were just rough slides. It just means goes to show how much time it took to write all that, typos and all. And yeah, but it was fun. I love football. I love breaking down football. I love talking football. That's why I do this show. That's why I love all you guys, because you guys are here with me. And again, you're my therapy. I love you guys. So go Bills. Let's go win the Super Bowl this year. Let's go beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. I'd love to beat the current champs in the Super Bowl. Let's go get them. And yeah, that's it. God bless and go Bills.